Hi, my name is Manish Gupta, and in this video, I'm going to talk about multi-legal pile, which is basically a 689 GB multilingual legal corpus. So let's discuss the details about this corpus. What does this corpus contain? And how do models trained on this corpus perform on various legal benchmarks? So what is multi-legal pile? Well, as I mentioned, it basically contains 689 GB of legal documents covering 24 languages from 17 different legal systems or jurisdictions. It basically comprises of these four main subsets: URLix resources, legal MC4, native multi-legal pile, and then pile of law. Okay. So MC4, pile of law, and URLix are existing data sets. Native multi-legal pile is something that the authors crawled themselves. As you can see, a large portion of this comes from pile of law, which is like 292 GB, about 42%, but basically overall it's about 700 GB. Right? So MC4 dataset is very, very popular. So it has also been used for training other models like MT5 and so on. This one is a general web crawl, multilingual web crawl. And what they did was to basically filter MC4 so as to essentially obtain legal documents. This filtering is done using legal references like Article 5, Section 8, or any legal citations, references to laws and rulings and so on. So although MC4 is very large, they basically take like one document from every 1,000 documents in MC4 while doing this filtering so as to obtain legal content. Okay. So native multi-legal pile has been obtained by scraping several websites. There are not too many websites, probably about like 20, 30 websites, which basically allow direct downloads and so on, so as to get these legal language materials. Eurlex resources is essentially, European Union legal resources, and they actually have made available a Eurlex R package using which they write Sparkle queries. The authors write Sparkle queries so as to get the Eurlex resources data set. Pile of Law is essentially a diverse legal data set in English, primarily from the US, and which is also a part of this multi-legal pile corpus. So as you can observe, this corpus actually contains 24 different languages, the largest one being English, but then there are several other European languages in that census. Interestingly, there is no Indian language as such in this corpus. Um, so if you look at the different kinds of documents, well, case law comprises 51% of the documents. It's basically court rulings, which are typically publicly available without any without any copyright issues and so on. Contracts, basically mainly coming from private sector, are the smallest, less than 10%, about 9%. And then there is a whole bunch of legislation documents and legal MC4 documents. Okay. So using this data set, they train legal XLM models. Legal XLM models are initiated or initialized using XLMR checkpoints themselves. So they take XLMR base, XLMR large models, which basically are 184 million and 435 million parameters in size. And they essentially further train them on this multi-legal pile dataset. Okay. So therefore, these are multilingual models trained on 24 languages worth of data. They also further train a long former model, which basically has a max sequence length of 4096 because legal documents are typically long. So as to solve these long document-based tasks, they actually also train this long former version of XLMR. That basically has 208 million parameters, again, on all the 24 languages. And then they also train 24 different models with monolingual data. So you take the XLMR base, XLMR large, and then train it on monolingual data. So therefore, you have 24 different models and trained on each of those languages themselves. Okay. So the vocab size that you can observe is 128K for the multilingual models, but for the monolingual models, it's 32K. So this 128K vocab size is basically a byte pair encoding. And again, those tokens that overlap with XLMR's vocabulary, for those tokens, the embeddings are initialized using XLMR embeddings. For others, basically the embeddings are trained in the first 2.5% of the training epochs. So training is done in two parts. The first part basically just trains embeddings. The second part basically trains everything, the entire model, end to end. Okay. The first part is just 2.5% phase. Okay. So, and the models are trained in mixed case. So you have small case and low and uppercase both, right? Lower and uppercase both. Now, the models have been evaluated on two popular legal benchmark data sets, legal benchmarks. I mean, and each of these benchmarks contain several data sets internally. One of them is LexStream, and the other is basically LexGlue. Right. So let's talk about LexStream first. I'll not read up everything which is here, but the interesting part is that LexStream actually comprises of several interesting legal tasks. All of these tasks here are classification-based tasks. None of them are generative tasks, and therefore using XLM models basically makes sense. Okay. So these data sets basically come from different countries. As you can observe, they're data sets from Brazil, from Germany, from Greece, and from Switzerland, and so on. So all of them are basically either from the US or Europe, practically, right? And they deal with different kinds of legal tasks, like predicting case outcomes and judges' unanimity on decisions, classifying judgment sentences according to their argumentative function, predicting topic categories at the chapter level, subject level, volume level, and so on, predicting judgment outcomes, detecting unfair clauses, identifying type of COVID measure described in a sentence, identifying taxonomy labels for legal taxonomy labels for various documents, or doing named entity recognition broadly, right? So across these different benchmarks, across the different data sets as part of LexStream data set, what you observe is that these legal XLMR models actually outperform other baseline models, right? So the baseline models are the standard models, MiniLM, Distilbert, MDBERTA, multilingual DBERTA model, XLMR base, and XLMR large, right? As you can observe, for many of these benchmark data sets, I mean, in fact, 6 out of these 11 different benchmark data sets in this LexStream benchmark overall, right? You observe that these legal XLMR models actually perform really good. Okay. Also on aggregate, well, I mean, you observe that legal XLM long former model actually beats the XLMR large model by some margin. I mean, it may not be a very large margin, but yes, it basically performs better. The performance, although I'm not shown in this video, across various languages differs, obviously, right? For Greek, it turns out that these legal XLM models actually perform much better compared to the non-legal data trained models, right? Now, this also performance comparison done on LexGlue benchmark. LexGlue benchmark comprises of these 6 different data sets. So these data sets, again, come from various sources. So the first one is basically from European Convention of Human Rights. And basically, there are 2 tasks in it. The first task actually predicts violated articles, and the task B actually predicts allegedly violated articles, related tasks, right? The second data set is from the Supreme Court of the US. It basically, the task is to classify court opinions into 14 different issue areas. Third one is from Europe, so EURLEX, to predict category, legal category labels for a given document. And then there are other such category label predictions, like Ledger data set, which predicts categories for contract provisions, unfair data set, which unfair terms of service data set, which predicts unfair types of contractual terms for a given sentence. And then case hold data set, which identifies the correct holding statement out of 5 different choices. All of them are classification-based data sets. And again, as you observe here, their legal XLM model, the multilingual models don't perform as well, but the monolingual English model somehow outperforms any other existing model on this benchmark. So, you observe that the English model that has been trained using their multilegal pile dataset, actually, again, the English version of the multilegal pile dataset actually outperforms any existing model on the LexGlue benchmark. Okay. So in summary, in this video, I talked about multilegal pile, which is basically a legal dataset comprising of 689 GB worth of documents coming from 24 languages and obtained from 17 different jurisdictions. They use this dataset to train XLMR base, XLMR large, and long former XLM based models. They also train 24 monolingual models. And then the awesome part is that these models, some of them basically establish state of the art on LexStream and LexGlue benchmark datasets. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. Connect with me on my LinkedIn or look at my research on my homepage. Thank you.